Hey everybody, first I want to just give a quick update about our dear friend Lou Pizzoli, who's doing awesome. Not only do I want to update you about Lou, I want to say hi to Lou. Lou watched us last week from his hospital bed and took communion along with us. So Lou, as you know, so many people are asking about you every single day. You're doing great, and Lou really is doing great. He's now in a rehab center for a couple weeks here in Aldi, and every day is improving. So he told me to say hi to everybody, blew a kiss to everyone. So everybody just keep Lou and Kim and LJ in your prayers as we ask God to continue the full restoration of Lou since his stroke. Okay, a couple more updates for you. The Washington West Film Festival is just 4 days away, which is hard to believe. It's our 10th anniversary, and even though it's different this year and it's smaller because of COVID and filmmakers aren't traveling like normal, we're still looking forward to a great festival. All box office proceeds, 100% go to supporting at-risk kids and amazing organizations that we're partnered with. So if you are interested in recommendations from me, I'll be happy to pass them along to you. The eccentric, quirky opening night film is Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch. Then we've got a couple sports-related documentaries that are great on Friday evening. The 75th anniversary of It's a Wonderful Life. We're hosting, you don't get to say that very often. The 75th anniversary of It's a Wonderful Life is on Saturday morning. Films all day Saturday. Our closing night film is really inspiring about peace and unity among different people who believe different things. And then we close out Saturday night on the rooftop at Capital One Hall. So a lot more information that I can give you. If you are interested, just email the church. And then next weekend, I get to introduce my brother's message. He has a message he's been planning for us, and I can't wait. You'll see me next Sunday morning as I introduce my brother. Okay, let's lean into this morning to Marvel Sunday. This is something that we've been talking about for months, and I think you're going to enjoy our day today. Hey Dulles family, welcome from wherever you're watching from. Our friends in Canada who normally watch, and this week Andrew and Jesse are in Canada. Our friends in Florida and different parts of the country, we're so glad you've joined us here on Marvel Sunday. And so I put out a call about a month ago, actually probably 2 months ago, like, hey, real true Marvel fans, let me know. I'd love to get your help for a Sunday coming up in October. And Alton and Cullen, and in a very authentic looking Captain America suit is Tony and Jeremy, Mason, and Ken's. So welcome guys, thanks for joining me for this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to just jump into this, and I want to have a conversation around a couple of ideas. So each of you is a self-described Marvel fan, and by Marvel fan, what I mean is not somebody who watches the movies or enjoys them, but somebody who goes to school or goes to work and is thinking through the Marvel, the MCU timeline or storyline and trying to work things out. To me, that's the fan. So clearly. You guys, yeah, clearly. You guys are all Marvel fans. So what was it? Was it a movie? What was it that really pulled you in?
I'll jump in on this. So what pulled me into Marvel is my dad and my brother, my older brother growing up, just had boxes of comic books. Yeah. And I remember just hours and hours and hours of just reading the comic books. Yeah.
Same for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously pre-digital technology, screens everywhere, computers in your pocket, and as a young kid, the escape was comic books, and we didn't take good care of them back then, so they were sprawled everywhere, under your bed, in your closet, jammed into your backpack. So I think it was mostly just that escape and being a part of an alternate world where you'd and you'd find one that you had lost for like half a year, and be, yes, I found it. I've been looking for this one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely the comics for me as well. So.
Okay, who else?
Well, me, I used to be a bit of an artist, or at least I thought I was. And I used to draw comics. I didn't read a lot of comics, but I used to draw.
Wow.
And I had a friend named Clinton Richmond, man. He was excellent. And he used to teach me a lot about drawing superheroes and stuff. So I was a superhero fan before the Marvel movies came out.
Very cool.
I did something horrible for a Marvel fan. I watched Endgame before really caring about Marvel. Accidentally, it was just on the TV, and I didn't really know what was going on, so I was like, okay, this maybe makes me want to go back and watch all of them. So
I remember questioning you. I walked in and you were near the end of Endgame.
like
And I was
the
like,
end of
isn't this
Endgame.
Endgame? And you're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And like a year later, you hated that you had done that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It matters so much.
Yeah.
Cullen, Mason, what drew you guys in? Like,
My dad showed me like the first movie, and then I just started liking it then.
yep.
I saw my mom watching it. I
Yep.
decided to watch a little bit, and then I liked it.
Yep.
Because my mom, from now on, she's been watching Wolverine. sometimes on just regular TV, and I
Yeah.
always just sit down and watch it for some time. Yeah.
All right, so here's the big question of the day. This is really kind of what Marvel Sunday is all kind of wrapped around. In a Marvel world, in the MCU timeline, there's so many heroes with so many abilities. Which one do you think is the most powerful? Which character? And you know, you could keep it narrow around Avengers or the whole MCU. And we're not necessarily talking about our favorite. Which one do you think is the most powerful? Which, by the way, is a debate, and if you're not a Marvel fan, it's okay, stay with us. I promise this is leading somewhere, but this is an online debate that a lot of the Marvel world has been having, is who's the most powerful. So who do you think?
I'm going to go with Thor.
Okay.
The God.
And why? Why Thor?
He's a God. Hammer. All of it.
Yeah.
Lightning. All of it.
Yeah. And he is the only, isn't he the only
He's the
character
only
that's a god?
He's the only one.
Well, and Loki, but yeah.
Well,
Oh,
right.
right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, his whole family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Outside of his family.
Okay, who else?
I'll jump in. Going against my favorite, and this changed recently in the past couple weeks because I had not watched WandaVision. After watching WandaVision, I've come to the assumption that I think Scarlet Witch
Yes.
is
That's a good
the strongest. I used to think Captain Marvel. Just based on her all-around ability and strength,
Yeah.
but like Scarlet Witch manipulating time and space and
Controlling
doesn't have anything to
people's
do with
minds.
It's not necessarily like strength as we think of brute strength,
Yeah.
but it's power.
Yeah.
I think that's
Interesting.
gonna rock my world seeing that.
Okay, and again, all the movies, what are there, 25 now, 24? Recently on Disney Plus, there's been some Marvel series that have kind of informed us about a lot of the universe. And WandaVision being one of those television series. Who else?
I'll go ahead and go. So I got a little bit lucky, as if you couldn't tell from the attire today. So my favorite and what I feel is the most powerful MCU character is Star-Lord. So, Peter Quill, he's pretty awesome. He's got great hair. He's got a blaster. I mean, what more could you ask for?
He does.
He's got great taste in music too.
Yeah, he's got great
Really
taste
good
in
music.
music, right? So, but like on the serious side, I think why I'm kind of drawn to his character so much, especially in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we actually learn in that movie that Peter Quill is half human and half celestial being. So his father Ego, which is basically a giant planet with, you know, omnipotent powers, is a celestial in the MCU universe. So for me, especially in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where we learn that about him, and so he's obviously super powerful, right? He's basically half celestial. And through the course of that movie, he basically learns his father has this power, and therefore he has this power, and he can tap into it. And for me, the character development really his power came from not his celestial power, but his choices and what he did with his power, which was essentially gave it up. So over the course of that movie, he had to make a choice. And, you know, for me, it's just always been like, hopefully I don't offend anyone, but like even some parallels with Jesus and what Jesus did with his power. And he had to make the ultimate sacrifice and give up his power.
Jeremy, you're not offending anybody. You're kind of foreshadowing here a little bit.
No, okay, so for me it's Star-Lord, and it's more based in like his decisions that he's made is where his power comes from.
Interesting.
That's really cool.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting answer. All right, fellas. Mason, who do you think is the most powerful? Wolverine. Yep.
Yeah.
And I've heard other people say the same thing. And why Wolverine?
Why Wolverine? Because I've watched part of one movie. Perfect timing. I was in the one where he's being chased by people, and an arrow skimmed across his cheek.
An arrow cut him
Yeah.
in the face? Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't really a problem because you could just heal it.
That's good.
Yeah, it's hard to compete with being able to heal yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a pretty
good one.
pretty big power.
I like that.
Cullen,
I think it's probably Hulk.
Hulk.
Because, well, one, he can sometimes control himself, and then
Oh, that's a
he
good
can,
point.
Then he can destroy things that most other things can't. He can like resist things that others can't.
Wow. Okay, I have not thought of this
That's
point.
great.
That not only is he strong and can basically do whatever the Avengers need him to do physically, but he's learned how to control himself. That's a really good
that's really
point.
cool.
That's a good
Yeah, there's some good stuff coming out here. All right, Kens.
I agree with Tony. I think Wanda is the most powerful. And I think after watching WandaVision, there are a lot of reasons why that I don't want to spoil for anyone.
Yeah, we're trying to prevent spoilers here.
Yeah, but I agree with Tony.
Okay, and you told me that like 4 months ago. I remember you said, I think for me it's Wanda. Yeah, awesome. This is cool. Well, not that anybody asked, but I'll tell you, I think, and mine's related to a recent television series too, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. For me, I think it's Falcon. I think it's Sam Wilson. And I can't elaborate much without giving a pretty big spoiler. But yeah, after all the movies, when I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, to me, I felt like it was, I think I saw a little bit of Jesus in Sam Wilson's character. Yeah, okay. All right, last question here. And this, if you haven't watched any Marvel movies, if you think it sounds ridiculous or you have no interest, this question maybe starts to pull you in a little bit here into this conversation. So, all right, guys, needless to say, a lot of the storyline of the MCU requires a great amount of suspension of disbelief. The Hulk, Ant-Man, there's quite a bit where
You're saying it's not real. Are you?
I'm not suggesting anything here,
Okay.
other than
Okay.
I have to suspend my disbelief at times. So what is it then about the storyline that you believe really pulls people in. I mean, millions and millions of people all around the world. They tend to be the highest grossing box office releases every time a Marvel movie comes out. What is it? With all what somebody on the periphery would say ridiculousness, what is it about the storyline itself that you believe really pulls people in?
Well, I was someone that thought Marvel was absolutely ridiculous and just had no interest in watching them. And then I think as I learned how complex the whole story actually is and how all the characters like are connected to each other, I think that's what pulled me in. It seemed like the storytelling was really good.
Yeah.
More than just like superheroes doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to
Yeah.
go with the storytelling of it. And, you know, it's all of these stories are so relatable. And I think what Marvel has done an amazing job in the development of the MCU is how relatable everything is. And even though you have these superheroes and all these individuals with incredible powers and responsibilities, they're still vulnerable, right? Mm-hmm. So you see all of them make mistakes, you see all of them grow, like your example with Sam Wilson and you know, taking that mantle of Captain America and how he grows on that personal journey through there.
Yep.
It's, you know, it's relatable through their vulnerability. So it's like, okay, I feel vulnerable all the time, like every day.
Yeah.
But here's how, you know, people get through it. And
It's really good, Jeremy. I really agree. I think we could do a character study on Tony Stark, just Tony Stark.
Yeah.
We could do a whole series at church on seeing ourselves in Tony in different ways. Who else?
I'll talk about this guy, the
Yeah.
Black Panther. I didn't go to that movie expecting much, but I felt things
So
that I've
powerful.
never felt in my 54 years when I went to see that movie.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
I know a lot of people who are Black Panther fans, but not Marvel fans.
Yeah.
because of that feeling.
Yeah.
And, I mean, 54 years of not seeing anything like that, and then seeing it, it blew me away.
Yeah.
And so that was my.
Yeah, that's good.
That was a strong one. I think, you know, when I think about your question, and I completely agree with the storytelling aspect of it and how it relates to people in everyday life, and people can relate to that story. One thing that sticks out to me is Thor, when he puts on all that weight. He's lost belief in himself.
Oh, yeah.
He has kind of just like sunk to
a new low.
a new low, but a bigger belly. And you know, you've been defeated by something. We've been defeated by something in life, and we kind of just like are like, all right, well that's it. Just let it go. But you know, you kind of need that, I guess, restoration of faith in self and of that faith to find yourself again and emerge even stronger than you were
Yeah,
before.
they make mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's okay to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
It's a
Right.
way to kind of grow from them. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, where I'm going to go in the message part of this here in just a few minutes is, you know, this question, you know, with the suspension of disbelief and some of the ridiculous stuff. Before I was a Marvel fan, I told somebody, "Oh, I'll never watch a Marvel. I'm not interested." And then once I got hooked into the storyline, it led me to really suggesting this. Could it be what pulls people in that real life humans in everyday life, us and people like us, somehow innately know, even with moments of beauty in this world, and try not to look to my left. There are moments in this world that are good and there's laughter, but we innately know that humans need rescue. This earth, this planet needs rescue, regular types of rescue. And so that's kind of where we're headed here. And we're gonna pause here just for a little bit as we worship. Amy and the band are gonna lead us in this worship song, and then I'm gonna close out our day just really focusing on where all of this kind of lands for us as people of faith, or people who are looking to Jesus with our faith. All right, so I'll be back with you guys in just a little bit. Thank all of you for being a part of this, being part of this conversation.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's not every day I get to sit between Star-Lord and Captain America. Okay, in all seriousness now, let's worship together.
Worship our King. Come, let us bow at his feet. He has done great things. See what our Savior has done. See how his love overcomes. He has done great things. He has done great things.
Okay, I want to go back to the last part of the conversation we had with the group. When I asked the question, what is it where we have to, in Marvel movies, suspend so much sense of reality or disbelief when a man gets angry all the time and turns into a giant green Hulk, or another one of the heroes, he can instantly at will turn himself into a tiny little flying ant. These are the things that just had me saying for years, I'll never watch Marvel. I'm not really interested. Doesn't seem realistic. What is it that pulls millions and millions of people into this, even though we have to suspend our sense of reality? Could it be that in real life, we as humans we understand there's something inside of us that understands, even in the moments of beauty in this world, in laughter and the good moments, we understand we live in a world that necessitates rescue. Rescue is a regular need on planet Earth. We need rescue, physical rescue. We need physical rescue from like emergencies or medical situations. I needed rescue last summer when I had that strange, freaky infection that we couldn't figure out. Thank God for the team of specialists that worked with me and worked on me for that. We have all kinds we hear of people, good Samaritans, pulling somebody out of a burning car or out of burning buildings all the time. I mean, we live in a world where we just kind of understand rescue is needed. We need mental health rescue from anxieties and discouragements. We need encouragement when we're battling discouragement. And we just kind of understand that's part of the human experience. We're told that never before has a generation struggled with anxiety and worries and stress and depression like the generation of our kids today. We need relational rescue from division, whether that's within marriages or division in friendships. We need societal rescue from political division and all the different opinions in our world. And we default to political leaders being the answer, or the next leader, or the next election. We talk about that a lot here at Dulles. I think we live in a world where we know rescue is needed. Whether we admit it or not, we're aware of it. And I think that's one thing that draws us into a storyline like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And another reason I think so many people are drawn in is that even in our own individual attempts to control life, control circumstances, to be right or to have the right answers, we subconsciously or innately understand that we actually need someone to be in control. We need someone to actually have power and be in control. And so I want to look here at just a few minutes today at what Jesus says about all of this. In Matthew 28, this is the end of Matthew's account of Jesus' life here on earth. Jesus is sending out the disciples really to start the movement of the church. Jesus has started the church. He's commissioning the disciples to go lead the church, the followers of Jesus, who would be his voice and his heart and his character and mission and worldview. And that's really the nature of the church. And in sending them out, he says to the disciples, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Now, we don't have enough time to spend the hours and hours it would take to talk together about what does it mean that all authority, like all, not just here on earth, in the everyday kinds of things we would think about with authority, or in Washington, D.C., or governments, or in heaven and on earth, all authority has been given to him. What if this has actually happened? What if someone actually has all power? I mean, what would the implications be for you and for me, for our lives, for our future? What would it mean for your life if someone actually in real life has and holds all power? Now, I want to go back just a few chapters earlier in Matthew. This is in Matthew 20. This is where a fight has broken out among the disciples. James and John started it. They were really arguing with each other. They're brothers. They were arguing about which one of them would be greatest in eternity. Which one would sit closer to Jesus at the feast that Jesus keeps talking about, that all of his followers will celebrate together in eternity. And it gets all the other disciples riled up. And so this is in Matthew 20, starting in verse 24. When the 10 others heard about this, what James and John were arguing about, they lost their tempers, thoroughly discussed it with the two brothers. So Jesus got them all together to settle things down. He said, "You've observed how godless rulers throw their weight around, how quickly a little power goes to their heads." And let me just pause to say, Republicans and Democrats on both sides of the political spectrum have said to me so many times, I don't know, in recent years, certainly this past year, something to the effect of, "You couldn't pay me to be president. I can't imagine wanting that job." So many people, it doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican, so many people have said this. And generally, when this conversation sort of comes up about, who's going to run next, and people will say, "Oh my gosh, I can't imagine wanting that job." And then the statement that follows is something to the effect of, "You've got to be a power maniac. You've got to be egotistical. You've got to be sort of narcissistic to want that job." And it's because we live in this world, even in the business executive world, certainly in the political world, where we just understand even good intentions on the front end end up often so skewed towards self-serving when enough power is given to someone. Jesus says how quickly a little power goes to their heads. It's not going to be that way with you. He says to the disciples, and inherently to all of us, "Whoever wants to be great must become a servant. Whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. This is what the Son of Man," that's Jesus' title for himself, God born of humans. "This is what the Son of Man has done. He came to serve, not to be served, and then to give away his life in exchange for the many who are held hostage." So if Jesus came to serve, not lord his power over us, but to serve us in our need, to actually take our brokenness off of us. If Jesus came to serve us, and we're also told that he has all power, that the Father has given him all power in the universe and on earth, what does that mean for you? I mean, what does that mean for what you've struggled with, your past, maybe regrets? What does it mean for your future? We only really know the answer to that question. We only really understand the implications of Jesus having all power and coming to serve you and me if you and I acknowledge our weaknesses, our limitations, our inadequacies. If we stop trying to fix ourselves and we stop trying to pretend or cover up what's missing or what isn't whole, and we actually own it. We just lean into, this is a weakness of mine. This is something that I just can't fix in my own life. That's when we understand. That's when we begin to step into the power, not just that Jesus has, but that he offers us. The completeness, the wholeness that he offers you and me in our weakness, in our shortcomings, and our limitations. By the way, this is another reason I love the Avengers characters and so many of the characters in the MCU. I think in maybe movie 3 or 4, I realized that not only did they struggle with, but they do struggle with failures. And have to confront. At some point, most of these characters come to a point of choosing to confront, or they have to confront some kind of a loss in their life, or a failure, or a fear, or some kind of insecurity. And it's when facing the insecurity or the fear or the weakness that they're able to become someone that they weren't. And that's exactly what Jesus has come to offer you and me. He has come to take our weaknesses, our brokenness, our failures. What Scripture calls selfishness is really sin. Sin is the word for self-serving or self-promoting. The pride in us that wants to be in control. Jesus came to take all of that broken version of humanity on himself and to the cross so that we could be free, so that he could replace the incompleteness with wholeness and with his strength and with his power. You'll only ever know Jesus' power and what it is, what it means for you, that he holds all power in heaven and in eternity and for the future, and even regarding your past, if you'll acknowledge where you're weak and where you struggle. Okay, the main text today, it's just a few verses, is in John 13. We actually read, last week we read the first verse in John 13 before we took communion together. This is right before the Passover meal, right before communion. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come. We talked about what that meant last week, that the hour has come to go to the cross. The evening meal was in progress. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power. Now, this is, in my opinion, in all of literature or English literature, the most powerful use of the word so. Jesus knew when the hour had come, he knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God the Father and was returning back to the Father. So, what does he do with that power? What would a business executive, in the executive world, what would somebody do with all power? What would a politician do with all power? Jesus, so counter to what we're familiar with in this world, so much the antithesis of what you and I have observed through history and in our own lives, so with all power, Jesus gets up and takes off the symbol of his authority as a rabbi. He takes off the robe, the rabbinical teaching robe, and puts on the servant's towel, the symbol of the servant who would bend over and wash off the poop and pee and grime and dirt of his disciples' feet, all as a foreshadow of what he was going to do the next day and go to the cross. Wow, a look at power in the business world or in the political world, you see nothing like this. In fact, when Jesus came to earth, and he came at a very intentional time, it was so strategically designed by God that Jesus would arrive where he did, when he did, because the world had known up to that point that the greatest human leader in history, so it was thought and pretty universally held, was Alexander the Great, who had essentially conquered the whole known world through oppression and violence, through force. And so the Jewish people, when they recognized that Jesus isn't just a prophet, he's not just a wise teacher, he's the Messiah, they thought the Messiah, Jesus, had come as Messiah to overthrow the Roman Empire, when Jesus actually only came to overthrow our weaknesses and our limitations and the holes in our life to make us whole. What would it mean for you? What would it mean for your relationships if someone actually has all power and he came and lives and cares about you, not to lord his power over you, but to serve you and to step into your weakness, into the relational struggle, into the hurt, into the pattern of hurt or betrayal? What would it mean for you? What would it mean for your fears? What would it mean for the thing that haunts you? What would it mean for your future if Jesus actually holds all power and he came to serve you? We're wired to want someone to have all power. It's just innate to us. We actually try to make that person ourselves at times. And we try to control things, control others, control life. And then we hope that a president or a figure of some kind, even sometimes athletes, will be the person who has all power. And then we end up finding ourselves on a run of disappointments, whether it's from the fall of Tiger Woods or to a president that we voted for and had hoped in. Whenever, whatever election you look at, we end up being disappointed by the people, the humans that we elevate. There's a study, a leadership book, one of my favorites from years ago, called Strengthsfinder. And it's actually a self-assessment study in your leadership gifts. It takes the 38 or 39 strengths that all humans can have and basically outputs your top 5. And it's just an easy to do, fun to go through study. I did, 12, 13 years ago. Our staff team here at Dulles just got to go through a beta test of Patrick Lencioni's new Working Genius study, We did this with a handful of other North Point partner churches. And we've had so much fun with it, just discovering what is your genius at work. Everybody has geniuses at work, and what is yours, and what is yours? And now we can kind of play off of each other's strengths and geniuses. And John Ortberg made a point recently that I loved. He said, instead of working so hard to find our strengths and to develop Strengthsfinders, maybe in this narcissistic world or this self-promoting world, this world where we all want to be in control, maybe we should develop a weaknesses finder that help us lean into and identify and acknowledge our weaknesses, because that is the moment that you step into the power of Jesus. Not just understanding he has power, that he has power for you. You only realize it. It only becomes relevant in your life when you realize, when you acknowledge, when you own, when you admit to your own weaknesses and your own limitations. All right, so here's how I'm going to end today. I'm going to end with this. I'm going to be looking at you as I say this. This is really a prayerful ending. But I'm going to pray this in terms of just a few short scriptures that are examples of so many. May you acknowledge your weaknesses and your limitations and your inadequacies so that you may invite Jesus, his power, into your incompleteness, into your need, and so that you will be filled with strength. Isaiah 40:29 says he gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength, not through my own strength, through Christ who holds all power. In 2 Corinthians 12:10 says, this is where Paul says, that is why for Christ's sake I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships and persecutions and difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. As I follow Jesus and as I allow his strength into my life. So may you begin to walk in new or renewed strength and power, maybe power you've never even comprehended before, as you walk in the way of Jesus. I love you, church family.